What is up, hammerheads? Welcome back to the forge. Today we're making a railroad spike knife. Stay tuned. Alright guys, before we get started in the video, I want to make a couple quick announcements. First and foremost, check out the affiliate links in the description in the video for christianbooks.com, Sportsman's Guide, and Power Director. Power Director is what I use to edit all of my videos, and I haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do with this. You can do some cool AI stuff, making it to where you turn it into a cartoon. Really cool things that I'm still learning how to use. They just did all these updates, so it'd be a great time to hop in and get Power Director if you want to learn how to use it. Also, if you'd like to see a video on how to use some of the Power Director stuff, I can try to learn how to do that. Just let me know in the comments on how to video it on my computer screen. Also, guys, there is a link to a online auction site called Whatnot. I sell a lot of my stuff on Etsy, but I also sell a lot of stuff on Whatnot. So go there, click the link, and you will get a present because you went through my link. So, and it will help you get your first purchase. It won't be free because you still have to pay shipping, and depending on how much it is, you could actually get something almost free. Now, last announcement. These tongs, I will leave a link in the description for. These are called, I think, rapid tongs or quick tongs. I did not forge those. I bought them, and it's pre-cut out with a laser cut or a CNC machine, and then I just did a couple twists and then forged them out the rest of the way, but I didn't forge the head. It come as a pattern already set up. And railroad spikes. Know your state and local laws before you mess with these, because when I used to own my scrapyard, you could not buy railroad spikes unless they had a letter from the railroad. I have had many people get in trouble because they seen them just laying on the back half of their property, and they went over there and gathered them all up, and they went and tried to sell them for scrap, and they got in trouble. That is regulated very heavily. I am able to obtain my railroad spikes legally. So do not just run out and grab up railroad spikes off the side of the road. You can get yourself in trouble by the police. And also, you can find a place where you can get them. So check around. Make sure where you purchase them at is a reputable place, or wherever you pick them up at. But I don't want to see anybody get in trouble. Okay, guys? So now, on to the video. Alright, guys. So this is why I like these style tongs, because it wraps around the head of the railroad spike, and it gives you a lot more mass to be able to work with. And I'm not having to fight with a pair of gooseneck tongs or bolt tongs trying to maneuver around. Everything that I'm going to be forging is from here down anyways. So this is the reason why I really like this style of tong. Alright guys, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing out where I want my blade to be. Making a division where I want the blade to be. I am not worried about the tip yet. I will actually shape the tip in with the angle grinder. Now remember, these are not high carbon steel. Anyone who tells you one's high carbon steel is lying to you, or they don't know. So I'm going to work both sides. I'm going to work this side next when I come out, because I don't want the blade to be kicked off to one side and have a weird shoulder. Hey guys, this might feel like it's going to take forever. I'm going to try to do this without smashing the camera. But just keep working at it. It eventually starts forming out into your blade. Now, I don't do super fancy railroad spike knives. It's not going to have an edge. I'm just going to make it look really good. So I'm going to go basic with it, draw the blade out, and then I'm going to twist where the handle is. And then we clean, before I twist it, I'll clean up the blade and get it shaped out with the angle grinder. These are really quick projects that you can sell very, very fast. You gotta love it when you set your tongs on fire. what happens when you don't clean them good after you dip in oil. Again, guys, not worried about the tip. I am going to watch it to make sure it doesn't crack. All I'm doing now is drawing out the material to make the railroad spot crack. Now you can go as wide as you want to with your blade. I'm going to go wider with it because I like the wider blades to be something like a roach belly. So we're just going to keep forging this out, guys, and getting it where it's a little bit longer and a little bit wider. You can go double edge on this if you want to, whatever you want to do. But kind of have an idea in your mind on how you want it to look. So guys, I want you to leave something in the comments for me. Can you envision what your project's going to look like yet? Can you see what it's going to forge into? Like I'm already starting to see with this one that I want the blade to be wider and I want it to be longer. And I've got plenty of mass here to make it longer. And I know that I'm probably going to come up this way with it to cut in that blade or cut in that tip and then start shaping out the rest of the blade. So I'm going to have to go a lot wider and some longer with it, but I have plenty of the material to do that with. All I'm doing is making this longer, guys, widening it out. I'm gonna have to adjust my camera before I break it. So we're just gonna work on this side next. Let me adjust the camera so I don't smack with the hammer again. All right, now maybe I can hammer without hitting things. As you can see, guys, I'm working the material back here too because I want a smooth transition. I don't want it to be where it's really aggressive on one side and not really that on the other. I want a smooth transition as I can get in that section. As you're going, stop and look. As you can see, guys, if you can see right here, this side is a little bit more hammered down than this side. So what I want to do is come out of the fire, start working this section down too, to where everything's as even as I can possibly get it. But you can see there's more aggressive transition right there. So when we come out, we're going to work this side a lot more to get that transition lined back up. All right, guys, so working this side, working down the blade. Now again, like I said, I'm not super worried about what that tip's gonna look like. I will be shaping it out whenever I get to it. Now remember, I'm not kicking my hammer, I'm not doing this. I'm hitting and then hitting and pushing the material down. Now, as you can see, we're getting that line back up a lot. So one more heat, guys, and then I'm gonna let it cool down, and then I'm gonna start shaping it, and then I'll finish forging. Now, once you start getting thin, guys, and you're trying to straighten up your material, be careful that you don't crush it and quilt it over. Alright, so from right here, I'm going to let my material cool down. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight because I'll be doing all that after the fact. All I'm going to do is start cutting in where my tip's going to be and then start shaping my blade out to my rough design that I want. It's a lot easier to do it this way than trying to hand forge it all out, especially in the beginning. I prefer to do this way because I have more control over what's happening. So I'm gonna let this cool down, and then I'm gonna start shaping it out over on the grinder. We'll go over with a flapper disc, because we're not doing any super aggressive grinding, and we'll grind out what we need to grind out. All right, guys, so I'm gonna start shaping this up. I'm not really gonna talk while I'm doing this because it's loud and noisy, and I'm probably gonna speed up the process. But all I'm gonna do is grind down the back and start, and then flip it over straight up and down and start shaping in roughly how I want the tip to be. I can see what it needs to look like, so I'm pretty excited. I want you guys getting to see this too. And this part goes fairly quick, guys. If you did all your forging pretty good and got it a little bit thinner, then it doesn't take as long to turn this into your, get your blade turned out the way you want it. And it all depends on what you want to look for. A lot of people like that really rough forge look. I like mine being a little bit more refined. All right, so I know you're gonna ask, why did I grind on this? If I'm going back in the forge with it, will it not create more forge scale? Yes, it will. I did that because sometimes where your tip is gonna be, it can create a cold shut or start a crack. And I thought I seen one starting, so I sanded it down to make sure it wasn't forming a crack on that tip. Now, I'm also going to clean up this side of it so I can see to make sure there's nothing forming on this side, because sometimes a crack will just form on one side. All right, guys, so I'm liking the way this is looking. I'm liking the way the blade's turning out. Now, you can see it here. Now, it does have a slight bend in it. We're going to fix all that. So what we're going to do is heat it up. Making sure that wasn't a name. Thought that was a name. It's just a crack. Not a crack, but scale. Sorry. But we're going to clean it up, do a little bit of forge and straightening because I don't like that swoop up, my personal preference. And then we're going to bring it out to the fire, bring it over here and twist it. If you have not made you a twisting wrench, find you an old, let me grab it from right here. Mine is a little overkill, but grab you an old pipe wrench like this and have somebody weld a handle on it for you. Or get two what we call crescent wrenches or adjustable wrenches. Cut the handle off one and weld it to it. So then you can adjust in and out, weld it to the back side. And then you can still adjust in and out. And then you also have a twisting wrench that you can put inside the vise. I seen that on a video once, thought it was pretty cool. Hey guys, I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning, but I'm gonna tell you it again. I will leave a link in the description to where you should be able to find these tongs. And I'll try to see if Blacksmith Depot also has them, and I'll leave a link in the description for that also. Okay guys, so I am just straightening stuff up, making it look good now. Not really trying to do any heavy forging. I'm just trying to get it cleaned up because I like it better looking like that. It's one of the prettiest prison shanks I've ever made. All right, now I'm gonna heat the whole thing up, and I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna clamp about right here in the vise and twist it. Oh, darn it. I'll fix the camera in a second. There we go. Might have to move the camera again. Hopefully you guys can see. Now, railroad spikes are kind of hard to twist. So when you're twisting them, try to keep everything as straight as you can, or you could end up, oh, sorry guys, gotta scooch back. I don't want to lose this heat. You can end up splitting your material if you don't have it hot enough, or bending it really bad. Which I'm gonna have to straighten this one because I bent it a little bit. All good though. That part's easy to fix. But got the twist in the handle. Now I'm gonna go back over. Now they make a twisting wrench that slides over the top of these. You can do a lot tighter and a lot nicer twist with it. I don't have one of those yet, but really nice tool. All right guys, as you can see, it's bent. It's easy to fix. I'll talk about the hammer in just a second. I could twist it just a hair further. See, little off, but I still kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. I'm just making sure everything is straight, the blades lined up, nothing crazy. Now, the reason why I use a wooden mallet, put this back in the fire because I gotta hammer it down a little bit. The reason why I use a wooden mallet is when you're hammering with it, and depending on how your twist is, you won't mess your twist up as bad hitting it with steel. If you hit it with steel, it could roll everything over. If you hit it with a wooden mallet and it's a softer mallet, then it's gonna indent into the wood and won't actually bend your material over as bad. If you hammer it between a stump and the wood, less likely to have any kind of problems. So that's why I was using the wooden mallet. Get you one of these. This is a landscape timber and just a piece of wood that we made with a handle. But I also have one floating around here that it was a gavel that my father-in-law picked up off of Amazon for just a couple bucks. So little wooden mallet, very handy. All right guys, I'm just straightening everything up right here, getting everything squared away. And you can tweak forever with these things. All right guys, I'm gonna call that perfectly set, as close as I can get. Now, grinding will fix some minor twists. If it's a very, very minor twist in it and you have enough material, you can grind it out. If it's very thin, you're gonna be sitting and tweaking for a while. That's why I always leave a little bit of meat on the blade just in case. But I'm gonna stamp it with my logo, and then we're gonna talk about what we learned today. All right, guys, let's get real for a minute and talk about what we learned today. So we forged our railroad spike knife. Now, again, I will have a link in the description to where you can pick up these tongs, because if you want to forge them, you can forge them. But this is a set of tongs that I really didn't want to forge. So I bought a pair that were called quick tongs, and you end up doing about half the work. They're laser cut out or CNC cut out. Really good quality tongs. I have a couple pairs and I really like them. And as much as y'all know, I don't like making tongs. So very handy pair of tongs, and they're not expensive. They're very budget friendly. And you can normally buy a set of them where you get like the railroad spike tongs, a pair of knife or flat bar tongs, a pair of round bar tongs, you know, like a little bit of everything for like one money. A little bit more expensive, but you have a bunch of tongs to do a lot of stuff with. So let's talk about the construction of our railroad spike knife. Our railroad spike knife, every time I make them always try to make them different, but I always leave the railroad spike head on it, or the nail head on it, whatever you want to call it. I do not forge these to be a perfect knife. So I'm going to get on my little soapbox for a second and talk about that. Railroad spikes are not high carbon steel. They do not make them out of high carbon steel. If you find one that's truly high carbon steel, it was for something else, okay? The reason why I say that is when a train is driving down the tracks, these railroad spikes are getting a lot of vibration through them, and over time, they will break if they were high carbon steel and they were hardened. Even tempered, they would break. Are they hard? Yes. Is there some carbon in it? Yes. Not enough to be considered an actual usable knife. Now, if you see one that says HC, when I was getting started in blacksmithing, everyone told me HC meant high carbon steel. That's what they were, special railroad spikes. Come to find out, 15 years later, or however many years, I learned that HC does not mean that. It means highway crossing. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew they weren't high carbon. But it means highway crossing. It's a little, I guess, a little bit different style railroad spike they use there. So it doesn't mean high carbon. If you go somewhere, it's at an event, there's a blacksmith set up, or you get to make one, and they say, oh yeah, it's a great knife, you can go to the woods with it, use it for everything. They're misleading you, or they're misled themselves. So don't get hung up on it. I'm breaking the truth down to you right now. This is just a really cool novelty item, okay? Now, when you're forging your blade, forge it flat and get it about roughly an 1/8 inch thick, around that. And then start shaping your blade a little bit. Get everything roughly where you want it to be. Let it cool down. I get mine to where it's about black or gray, where it's no longer any color to it, and then I'll quench it. I'll cool it off in water, and then I'll shape it with the angle grinder or the sander. But I'm not going to be doing anything major shaping. I will shape out my tip. I will shape out what quote unquote the blade a little bit, and then I will clean it up a little bit to make sure there's no cracks in it from where the tip was, that there's no cold shut. Then I go back into the fire and I hammer it a little bit more, get it roughly more the shape I want it to be, and then I twist it. I always put a twist in my handles. I do different kinds of twists, which will also affect the price I'll talk about in a second. But I'll do different kinds of twists. I'll put a notch in here to separate where the blade is, like a finger choil, where the blade is sometimes. But I just want to show y'all a quick, basic knife that you can do out of a railroad spike. So people absolutely love these when you set up at festivals and fairs and you're demoing. They love seeing these turn into knives, and people will pay for them. They're just not going to pay $100 for them. The most I've sold a railroad spike knife for is like 40 bucks when I'm set up at a market somewhere. I've had them I normally sell them for about 35, okay? This one, I would sell for about 25. I have sold them as low as 20. And like I said, they've went up a little bit if somebody really, really wanted one, or we've done a lot of work to one to make it look cool. But I always explain to people, yes, the blade's sharp. It will not stay sharp. It's not a hunting knife. It is not a carrying knife. It is a display knife to talk about. So understand that when you're talking to people. Don't tell somebody that this is going to be the best knife they ever had and it's amazing tool steel and blah, blah, blah crap, because it's not, okay? I make it to where it'll fit in the hand. Kids love these, so they can put them in their room and set them up, and they can tell their friends they've got a knife in their room. If I know a kid's getting it, sometimes I'll say, do you want me to make the tip where it's not sharp? And then it just looks cool. And sometimes the parents want that, and we just take it over to the sander and go zzz, real fast. Yep, I went zzz, real fast. And we will make it to where it's just more of just a piece of steel, but it looks like a knife. Guys, these are simple projects to do. These are amazing demo items when you're set up. And these are awesome Christmas present, Father's Day items to put out on your table when you're setting up at your markets and your fairs. These are some of the best bread and butter things you could have to sell at any market. You can fancy them up. You can do different kinds of blade or different lengths of blades, cut in different designs, all kinds of stuff. Okay, guys? Really cool items, really fun items, really simple item to make. Be careful when you're forging the blade. I got off into a rant again. I'm sorry. I'm talking about that. But anyways, be careful when you're forging the blade, especially your tip. You can cause a cold shut there, so you might end up having to cut back a little bit further and shaping it a little bit more because of the way the end of the railroad spike's made, how it would drive in the ground. All right, guys, so I got to talk about one thing before I close out, and it's something very important. And I talked about it before, but I want to talk about it again. In almost every state, if you walk down the railroad tracks and you pick up railroad spikes, you're committing a crime. And it could be a serious crime. So be careful. Make sure, again, you're getting your railroad spikes from a reputable, somebody that is, has a good reputation. Or you get them from, like where we're at, a blacksmith group that's affiliated with a railroad museum or something like that, where we're able to get some railroad spikes that way, okay? Be safe out there, guys. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. So these are great items, again, guys, for everything you set up at. They're great bread and butter items, and they're great for like Etsy and whatnot to be able to sell on there because people absolutely love these. So, guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one. God bless. Keep hammering.